As a result of the fallout from Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Nikita Mazepin was fired from Haas. Reserve driver Pietro Fittipaldi, Alpine reserve and reigning Formula 2 champion Oscar Piastri, and Red Bull-backed F2 driver Jehan Daruvala were all being considered by Haas, but it's Kevin Magnussen who will take the space left by the exiting Russian. Mazepin's unexpected release, on the other hand, has piqued the interest of many in the paddock, with team bosses and drivers expressing mixed emotions. Let's see what the team's leaders and drivers had to say about the situation. Welcome to F1 Tech, where we explore the inner workings of one of the most intensely exciting, death-defying sports in the world. Join us as we deep dive into the drivers, teams and cars of Formula 1. If you'd like to see more, be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon. Now, let's get started. Mazepin was incensed that his contract had been terminated, as Russian drivers are not prohibited from competing in Formula 1 if they agree to the FIA's emergency measures, which include agreeing to the FIA's condemnation of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and racing under a neutral flag. In a social media post, Mazepin clarified the situation and expressed his dissatisfaction, claiming that Haas completely ignored him and chose a different path. Dear fans and followers, I'm very disappointed to hear that my F1 contract has been terminated. While I understand the difficulties, the ruling from the FIA plus my ongoing willingness to accept the conditions proposed in order to continue were completely ignored, and no process was followed in this unilateral step. To those who have tried to understand, my eternal thanks. I've treasured my time in F1 and genuinely hope we can all be together again in better times. Haas announced last Saturday that they'd severed all ties with title sponsor Uralkali, which is part-owned by billionaire Dmitry Mazepin. Mazepin's contract was also terminated as a result of the backlash following Dmitry Mazepin's appearance at a Kremlin meeting with Vladimir Putin just hours after the invasion began. The following is Haas's statement. Haas F1 team has elected to terminate with immediate effect the title partnership of Uralkali and the driver contract of Nikita Mazepin. As with the rest of Formula 1 community, the team is shocked and saddened by the invasion of Ukraine and wishes a swift and peaceful end to the conflict. The invasion of Ukraine by Russia has sparked a major humanitarian and geopolitical crisis. The sports community has been vocal in its condemnation of violence in Ukraine, which has resulted in a major boycott of Russia. Several Formula 1 drivers took to social media to express their displeasure with Russia's actions. Mick Schumacher is one of many well-known Formula 1 drivers who have spoken out about the escalation of violence between the two countries, pleading for Ukraine's safety. Hello, I know I've been quiet on Instagram during testing, but watching this year unravel in Ukraine, it just didn't feel right. This is absolutely heartbreaking. My deepest thoughts and support goes out to all the innocent lives affected by this devastating war. This should have never been the situation, and I pray for these unnecessary actions of violence to stop. Despite defending individual Russian athletes, Red Bull Racing advisor Helmut Marko was among those who shared their thoughts after the situation arose. The Austrian believes Mazepin was right to lose his place on the F1 grid. I think that the Russian GP is justified. Excluding Mazepin is justified insofar as his cockpit is financed with Russian money. National teams should also be excluded. But individual athletes? Hello, there must be no personal liability. Or do you also want to forbid Anna Metrebko to sing? In any case, I would let athletes who clearly distance themselves from Putin start. Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff spoke out as well, saying that while he sympathises with the driver, he understands Haas's position. I'm in two minds because for Nikita himself, he's a guy that merits to be in Formula 1. He can drive. You can see that some of the sports leagues have decided to allow Russian athletes to compete, and others have been stronger in denying them access. I think as an athlete it is difficult, but to support the robust sanctions you can understand why. Formula 1 has also cancelled its contract with the Russian Grand Prix promoters in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. While the sport was quick to cancel this year's race, F1 officials later announced that the contract had been terminated, effectively meaning Russia won't host a race in the future. Wolff agrees with this decision. I'm Austrian, and Austria-Vienna is only 400 kilometers from Ukraine, and who would have thought that we would see another war in Europe? Formula One and the sport seems so minuscule in that context, so we decided not to race in Sochi, and I think that Formula One has given a robust statement like many other industries in the world. I think this is the overwhelming topic today, and it allows us to reflect on all the little annoyances we have in the sport, that there is so much more important than this. We have Ukrainians and Russians on the team. It's certainly not easy for all the individuals who have families there. It is tough times, and from a personal perspective, having grown up in Vienna with parents of Slavic background, I feel what is happening even closer to my heart. Sergio Perez, on the other hand, does not believe that the sports federation should be allowed to exclude Russian athletes from competitions. They have no power to influence the Russian President Vladimir Putin's decisions, according to the Red Bull Racing driver. The Russian athlete is paying for it in a certain way. I don't agree with that, because I think the sportsman is not to blame for what the president does. Of course, the Russian driver's fate was influenced by the sanctions imposed on Russia as a result of its invasion of Ukraine. Sanctions against former Haas title sponsor Uralkali ended the 23-year-old's F1 career even before the FIA announced restrictions against Russian drivers. Uralkali is owned by Uralchem, a Russian chemicals and mining company chaired and partially owned by Nikita's father, Dmitry Mazepin, a Russian oligarch born in Minsk. The depreciation of the ruble, pressure to stop doing business with Russia, and Mazepin family's long history of close ties to Vladimir Putin prompted the discussion. Because the two came as a package deal, the driver contract was contingent on the sponsorship money. Haas ended its sponsorship with Uralkali at the same time it fired Mazepin. Mazepin's junior racing career was uneventful, save for a few incidents on and off the track. He had a bad reputation as a junior because of his attack on Callum Ilott at the Formula 3 race in Hungary. After being apparently blocked on a lap during a practice session, he attacked the Briton twice in the pit lane. He was disqualified from one race as a result of this. He did little to repair his image during his 2-year stint in Formula 2, during which his driving standards were frequently questioned. He received a 15-place penalty for causing a massive collision at the 2019 Russian Grand Prix, which sent Nobuharu Matsushita to the hospital. In 2020, he finished 5th in the standings with 6 podiums, including 2 victories, but he was far from the front runner for promotion to the F1 class. However, money is a powerful tool. Dmitry Mazepin had been attempting to secure a place in Formula One for himself and his son since well before the 2021 season began. In 2018, Mazepin Sr. was one of the unsuccessful bidders for the now defunct Force India team, which he was instead purchased by Lawrence Stroll and renamed Aston Martin. Uralkali filed a lawsuit against the administrators for mishandling the sale, but the case was dismissed. However, an alternative entry point was provided by the ailing Haas team. The American-owned team, which was founded in 2016, got off to a flying start. It scored points on its debut and finished 8th in its first 2 seasons after rising to an impressive 5th place in 2018. But Haas had been on the decline since then. It uses a one-of-a-kind business model to cut costs. Dallara, an Italian company, designed the car, and the race team is based in the United Kingdom, though the team's headquarters are in the United States. It worked at first, but in 2018 and 2019 it lacked the resources to deal with development issues. It finished 9th out of 10 teams in 2020, scoring only 3 points. The team's drivers Romain Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen were fired. Ferrari effectively purchased one seat and put Mick Schumacher, a junior driver and the 2020 F2 champion, in it. Nikita Mazepin was given the other on a multi-year contract, with Uralkali announcing sponsorship shortly after. Haas will field reserve driver Pietro Fittipaldi for this week's Bahrain pre-season test, but Mazepin's permanent replacement will be ex-Haas driver Kevin Magnussen. Jehan Haas wanted an experienced driver to guide the team back to competitiveness. I think we'd obviously like to get someone with a bit more actual experience. We just have to see what's available, he said before taking on Magnussen. Haas has been cash-strapped since its inception in Formula One. Uralkali saved their lives in 2021, earning Mazepin a spot on the team. Now, Michael Andretti, who's been looking for a Formula One team, is said to have his sights set on Haas. On the other hand, Andretti claims that Jehan Haas, his compatriot and Haas owner, is not interested in selling his Formula One team. However, negotiations are always an option. A collaboration between Haas and Andretti is not out of the question, especially given Haas's financial difficulties. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and don't forget to click the notification bell to be notified of future uploads. What are your thoughts on the dismissal of Nikita Mazepin? Was Haas correct in their choice? Do you believe Haas has a future, or are they just closer to the end than the beginning? Leave your thoughts in the comment section, and we'll see you later on F1 Tech.